This encounter happened to me a while ago. I couldn't share it for a long time. For some backgrounds, I live in the country in Ohio. Down a long drive, fields on two sides, woods in the back. I'm about a mile away from town, so if I need police, I have to call the sheriff. I live with my husband and Boxer. The night this happened, my husband was getting some overtime at his factory. It was a Saturday and he was working third shift. I had spent the evening in my parents' house and didn't head home until around midnight. I stopped in town at our 24-hour gas station to get some drinks and chocolate and a beef jerky for my dog. As I exit the gas station, I get this feeling that's so strong. I just look around because I knew someone was outside with me. Over to my left, about 20 feet away, is a girl in a really cute little dress with a white horse mask on, just standing there. We stared at each other for a minute before I hopped into my car and quickly pulled out onto the road, as I belatedly checked my backseat for danger. That was unnerving, but I was home just a few minutes later giving my dog jerky and eating chocolate and watching TV. All of a sudden, my dog takes off down the hall to the back porch, barking and growling, and attacking the window. I run in there afraid a window is going to get broke again. My dog broke a window trying to get a coyote once already, and I stopped dead in my tracks. There sitting at the window is a horse mask. Again, we stared at each other. I looked over to the back door. Was it locked? Shit, I couldn't remember. Horse mask looks over at the door, and I slowly walk over to it. So does the horse mask. We both reach for the knob. It was locked. Horse mask looks behind her, and for the first time I look around my backyard. There was a guy in a horse mask too. I'm like, okay, this is enough, I'm calling the cops. I got my dog and shut the door to the porch and went to the living room to get my cell phone. I left my phone in the car when I carried my stuff in the house. In my car that's in my garage. My dark garage. Basically lacking any choice, I opened the door to the garage and tried to open my car door. But oh, guess what? I must have locked it and didn't have the keys. I crept back into the house. No sign of my dog. No horse mask in the backyard that I could see from the kitchen window. I grabbed my keys and got the phone. Called the sheriff and told them what happened, and I was followed home and alone. They asked if they were still outside. I looked out of the windows room by room, but nothing. Until I got to my front yard. Right out front, there they were, just standing about 10 feet away, holding hands, staring. I was honestly crying at this point to the dispatcher, who assured me someone would be there soon. As I stood there, clearly on the phone, the girl waved. Then they walked hand in hand down my lane out of sight. It took the sheriff 10 minutes to get there, and they found nothing. The police told me the guy probably sat in a car and they followed me. Just kids being kids, they said. My dog didn't come out of my bedroom the rest of the night. I sat up listening to silence until my husband got home. A couple weeks later, someone from the sheriff stopped by to follow up. They said they checked the camera at the gas station, but all it shows is the girl walk up by the dumpsters and stand there until I left, and she walks away. This happened 2 nights ago, so I'm still replaying it over and over in my head. I thought this would be a good place to share. I'm a pretty predictable person with a predictable schedule, so I'm not sure if this was a random occurrence or if someone knew my nightly routine. I'm a 35-year-old woman. My husband Rob gets up for work hours before me, so he goes to bed before I do. I usually get to bed a few hours after he does, around the same time every night. I turn off the lights and the TV in the living room and take my dog to the back door to let her out. The door leads to a large deck outside. Off to the right of the deck is a few steps down and a small path to the gate, which we always keep chained and locked. Every single night before opening that door, I peek out of the window right next to it without disturbing the blinds, and I flip on the deck light. I never expect anyone to be there, and we've never had a problem with anyone trespassing or trying to break in. It's just something I do every night. Kinda like peeking behind the shower curtain before I pee. I know no one is back there, but if I don't check, then that's going to be the one time that there actually is someone hiding there, you know? Hey, I watch a ton of horror movies, and it's pitch black outside at night where I live. So a few nights ago, I got ready for bed. Went to the back door with my dog slowly following behind me, and peeked out the window. I flipped on the light. My heart jumped into my throat when I saw a skinny, dirty guy in his 30s or 40s, standing off to the side of the door, facing it. I see him raise his arm up and hold a screwdriver above his head as soon as the light went on, preparing for someone to open the door. As loud as I could, which startled the guy, and he jumped over the rail of the deck. even though he was right next to the stairs, and ran. My husband ran out of our bedroom with his gun. He called the police, and they showed up within 5 minutes. They drove around trying to find the guy, but no luck. The guy broke the lock on our gate to get in. He also pried open the back screen door, which we always kept locked as well. If I would have opened the door without looking out first, I might be dead. I don't know if I caught the guy trying to break in, or if he was waiting for me to open the door like I do every night. Either way, it was fucking terrifying. My parents are buying us outdoor security cameras this week as an early birthday present for Rob. When I was about 9 years old, female, my family used to live in a remote area on the outskirts of town. Considering the location of the suburb, that area was surrounded by warehouses and such. At the time, my family did not have a phone in the house, and neither did our neighbors. There were no cell phones back then, or they were a luxury, and not everyone could afford one. This took place in the 90s. So if I needed to call my mom while she was at work, I had to either go to my dad's work or a company next to his, which was closer, to make a phone call. My dad's work was a relatively short walk from our house, probably 30 minutes or less. My dad was working at a huge unloading dock for metallurgical natural resources shipments. In order to get to my dad's work, I had to walk past another adjacent company, just like the one where he was working. I will call it Docks 2. My dad's work, as well as Docks 2, had a sort of watchtower. It's just a cabin mounted at the top of a tall platform, and you need to go up a decent amount of stairs to get to the top. There was always a guard inside overseeing the whole yard from the top, during the day and night, to make sure no one is in danger. No break-ins. The phones were located only at on-site watchtowers at the time. Docks 2 were much closer to our house, about 10-minute walk. One day, as I've done many times before, I went to the Docks 2 to make a call. I climbed the stairs, knocked on the door, and was welcomed in by a guard I used to see quite often and knew well. However, that day he wasn't alone. New guy, 28 at the time, was there. Apparently he was a new employee hired to work shifts. He was this very tanned white guy, always wearing military-style outfits. I was just an average-looking child, exactly my age. My hair was very blonde, which made my cheeks always appear rosy red, and gave me an even more childish appearance. When the new guy saw me that day, he wouldn't take his eyes off me. As soon as I was about to finish my call with my mom, it's just one room so everyone can hear my conversation with her, the new guy went outside to smoke. When I came out, he smiled at me and asked me what my name is, and whether I came there often to make calls. I don't remember what I said, but I felt very shy because he was just staring deeply into my eyes. I'm gonna call him the creep. Fast forward and I came to that tower again to make a call, and there he was again, but this time he was alone. I spoke to my mom when I was about to leave. He asked me if I wanted any tea, which I refused. He then proceeded to ask how my school was going and things like that. He offered to help me with my homework. However, I told him I got it all sorted. Harmless but strange. On a side note, I just want to say that what gave me shivers when I was near him is that whenever he looked at me, he looked drunk, which was very unsettling. Mind you, he wasn't actually drunk, but his eyes would get so hazy and his face would flush red. Sometime later, I saw him again. That time I was walking to my dad's work with my friend, and he was doing some digging in the docks too. When he saw me through the metal fence that was separating us, he just leaned against his shovel and just stared at me. He didn't say hi or anything like that. After those encounters, for quite some time, I took alternative routes to see my dad or play with puppies at my dad's work, or to make calls to my mom, because he really creeped me out. However, one day I had to call my mom urgently. My dad's work phone didn't work, so I had to go to the Docks 2 tower, hoping I wouldn't see him. The creep was there, and oh boy, he was happy I came. He was complaining how I don't come to see him anymore. As I was making a call, he grabbed another chair and sat right next to me, very close. It took a while for the call because my mom was busy with something and someone went to get her while I was on the line. It felt like hours waiting, and the creep was just sitting next to me, looking at me and smiling. When my mom finally got to the phone, he got up and went to make me tea, and brought me some biscuits. When I was done talking, he insisted I have some tea with him. I didn't, and he just kept on trying to strike a conversation, but this time, the tone of conversation was different. He asked me how old exactly I was, and I told him 12 or 13. I have no idea why I lied that I was older than 9. He told me his age, and although I knew he was much older, I felt really weirded out that he wanted to talk to me so badly, or had any interest in being my friend. My alarms did go off every time I was around him, but I guess I didn't feel overly in danger. He then proceeded to tell me that I was beautiful and asked me whether I had a boyfriend. He asked me if I've already dated boys and what type of boys I like. I was so uncomfortable and just eager to leave at that point, but he would just keep dragging me into these weird conversations. I could tell he was drinking that day. When I began moving towards the door, he followed me. Eventually, we were both outside. However, in order to get down from the tower, you need to walk this narrow path towards the stairs. He stood blocking it so that I couldn't leave. He got very close to me and I freaked out. The only escape tactic I could come up with as a child was to pretend that I'm seeing someone from the top of the tower. So I began waving my hand at the road down the bottom and towards houses in the distance, pretending I see someone I know and saying, "Oh look, that's my uncle, he's waving at me." The creep looked in that direction, but either didn't care or could tell that I was lying. I kept on telling him that my uncle I was waving to is a very big angry man, and if I don't come down this instance and go home, we were both going to be in trouble. But he didn't budge. He got even closer and eventually pressed me against the railing. He kept on asking me his weird questions while I was terrified to move because I didn't want to move my body against his, if that makes any sense. So I just froze. He asked me if I would come on a date with him and that he's looking for a girlfriend. And at that particular moment, someone was walking up the stairs to the tower, so he let me go, but asked me to come back. I have not told anyone about this encounter at that stage because I was afraid that my parents would get angry. I also felt embarrassed and thought that people would judge me for what happened. Sometime later, I was home and it was around 9 p.m. I know the time because it was my bedtime. Suddenly, a car came into our driveway. I came to see who it was through the front window, and I could see it was the creep, but this time with other guys, blasting music in his car and shouting my name. I have no idea how he knew where I lived. He must have followed me one day. My dad was outraged. He asked me who these people were, but before I could even answer, he rushed outside. Apparently the creep asked for me to go out with him and his friends. My dad obviously refused, saying that I'm a child and way too young to hang out with them or go at this time of the night, and that if he sees any one of them ever again, he will beat the living shit out of them. For a while after that, I hadn't seen the creep or heard of him. A significant time later, I was walking to my dad's work again, and I completely forgotten about the guy. He was working in the docks too with his friends. Maybe those that came with him that night in the car, or maybe these were just his coworkers. I got scared when I saw him and even thought he shouted hi. I pretended not to know him. He said something to his friends, and I remember so clearly how one of his friends exclaimed loudly, "Her?" I guess he told them about me or his interest in me, but no one expected me to be a child. I looked at the guy that exclaimed. He was still staring at me in utter disbelief. He must have been 20 to 25 or so, I think, and the creep was saying something to him. His friend screamed at him, "Have you lost your mind?" Clearly the creep didn't see me as a child like everyone else did. Fast forward again, maybe half a year later. One day I was home alone in the evening, waiting for my parents to come back from work. We lived in a very safe community, so sometimes I'd be home by myself for a little bit after school, until my parents got home. I was playing a game whereby I was a singer. I had this stage created in the living room, and I was performing in front of chairs, pretending chairs were my live audience. It was pitch black outside. At some point during my performance, I see someone staring at me through the living room window. That person must have been crouching down, as only the top part of the face could be seen from the bottom. As soon as the person realized I saw them, they ran away. I was embarrassed that someone saw me performing, scared and shocked at the same time, that I was literally glued to the floor. I don't know whether that was him. Our dog didn't react at all. Maybe because music was playing very loud. I was scared to go outside the house to check, but peered through the window. But no one was there. That person had to climb over a wooden fence to get to our living room window. I told my parents about it. I've also asked my friend whether it was him who came around, but he said it wasn't. I don't know if my friend felt shy to admit he was watching me, or whether it was the creep. To finish this up, one day I went to the docks too with my dad, as my dad needed something from there for work. I saw the old guard that I knew well and asked about the creep. I was told that he doesn't work there anymore. I don't know what happened to him. I never told my parents about what else happened.